Okay, please continue with what you're saying about resilient living systems and the greenhouse goal.
Yeah, so the goal is not to just target a small demographic. Like, I would like to see everybody have a greenhouse, or one greenhouse in every community that everybody can use. So the goal of resilient living systems is to build a greenhouse that is affordable, that can be built out of material that we're sourcing locally, and just make it more available for people who think that it's out of reach. But then I also don't want it to just be about greenhouses. If we get a customer who wants to do water harvesting, let's go and set up a water harvesting system for them. Let's do swales for people. I wanted something that wasn't just, hey, I build greenhouses. I wanted it to be more. So that's the goal with resilient living systems. Start with a greenhouse, expand from there.
Okay, so I'm just writing all this down.
Okay.
Expand from there. And then so the PDC was a catalyst for this project.
To the point to where I had never heard about permaculture before talking to Michelle 2 weeks before the PDC started.
No way.
Yeah, like I was totally out of it. I had been getting into like passive house just from my construction background. It always interested me, like, hey, let's build a house that doesn't have to have any fossil fuel inputs. Let's not have to rely on the power company to feed us power. We're smart enough, there has to be a way to where the houses can do it for us now, to where we're not so dependent on other people. So that's kind of the transition I've been in for probably the last 2 years. And then it kind of led me down the rabbit hole, and I ended up on a phone call with Michelle saying, hey, like, the PDC is getting ready to close. If you want to get in on this thing, like, we got to do it right now. And I had probably a 12-hour window to where I was like, all right, I'm going to make this commitment. I'm going to jump into the PDC, and we're going to go all in and see where we end up. And we just kind of haven't looked back since then.
So how did you find Verge? How did you find Michelle to even know that a PDC existed if you hadn't heard of permaculture?
It had to be through YouTube, I think. I think I ended up, when I was searching through passive house information, I ended up in one of Rob's passive greenhouse videos.
Totally. Yeah.
And then just kept following the trail from there. And then we ended up looking at the ad for the PDC, and it said, hey, have you got any questions? So I called and Michelle answered, and we talked about it for probably 30 minutes, and it just kind of changed. I mean, it changed everything. So, I mean, I quit my job in April and went out on my own, fully self-employed now, no backups, and just all in on this whole adventure. It's been crazy.
How's it been so far?
It's been awesome. It's been, we just take one job at a time. I mean, mainly all of our work right now is through residential remodeling. So, I mean, we're doing a lot of like bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels, but I'm getting to work with people closer than like a big builder would be. So there's a lot of design in it. And then when I'm in there in these meetings and I'm talking to people, I'm always throwing in, hey, do you know anything about greenhouses? Are you interested in greenhouses? Nice. And every once in a while they're like, yeah, like, let's talk about it. Show me what you can do. So I keep going towards the yeses. So like, I just keep pushing forward, and doors just keep opening it up. And it's really crazy to think about, like if you'd asked me back in January, all right, where are you going to be? I'd be like, well, I'm probably in the same job that I am now. And now it's just like, I don't know, we just keep going and see where we end up, and not overthink everything. Like, just worry about where we're at right now, like everything is taken care of. And I don't try to look too far into the future, because you don't ever know what's going to change or who you're going to meet. And that's the other thing, like we just keep meeting people who introduce us to other people, and it just keeps stacking. And it's just so, this whole experience has been so cool.
Well, I think Rob said that too in the PDC, is that, you're doing the right thing when the resources start to accumulate. And it sounds
Absolutely.
like, you're getting those yeses, you're meeting those people who are interested in the same things you are. And that's a pretty crazy story that you're so fully on this train now after only hearing about permaculture 2 weeks before that. What were some of your biggest takeaways or insights from the PDC that really, led to that shift?
So I think, and Rob preached on this, it's not so much the content, it's about how you approach the problems that you're having. And you don't have to just apply it to gardening or solar panels or any of that. Like, you can apply this stuff that they teach in the PDC to everyday life. Just the concepts they're teaching, the way to look at things, not looking at it as a problem, but looking at it like, all right, how can I take advantage of this situation based on what I'm given, not what I wish I had.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. And not to mention, and it's hard now just because of all the COVID stuff and the socially distancing, but how much a role community plays in everything. Like just like we can build these communities of people, even through the computer, like even through the PDC, like I was talking, gosh, some of the people that I met from up your way and in Canada, like I'm down here in Pennsylvania, and I'm talking to somebody who's in like a zone 2 climate. And I'm like, I don't even know what the heck a zone 2 climate looks like. And to have that knowledge and to be able to learn off of people from all kinds of different areas, that's really special. And I think that was like my most exciting thing, was getting off of a call and being like, I talked to this person and they have this greenhouse and it's like 4 degrees outside right now and they have oranges. And that was pretty special.
Yeah. And so how's your greenhouse been holding up?
It's been really good. So we actually just had our first small snow and frost this week, and I was a little nervous. I'm like, all right, is this thing going to work? So because we put a bunch of money into fruit trees this year, just because I wanted to go like I didn't want to stay safe. I wanted to have like oranges and lemons and limes and your citruses in there and see how this thing works through the first winter. So I was kind of nervous to go out there and see what it was. But the greenhouse has been running really well. It's been heating up during the day enough to where we're pumping that heat underground through the climate battery. And then at night, it seems to really hold the heat. We've seen some flaws that we have to fix, and we see I've seen the areas that are weak with the system, but it's all things that we can adjust and fix with the system. Mainly, I think I really want it to be totally self-sufficient from the grid. Like, I don't want to tie into like the water on the side of my house or the power on the side of my house. I want to have backup systems because I don't really want to lose anything in the greenhouse. But I'm hell-bent on like this thing's gonna run off of solar. Like, I only want to have solar inputs in it to run it, and I want it to heat itself. Like, I don't really want to have to put another heat source in it. I may have to bite the bullet and do it, but I'm really, really going to try to have it, that way on its own. So I think right now, my solar is probably a little underpowered on battery storage,
right?
Because like I'm getting a lot of good Sundays to hold power, but I necessarily don't have enough battery storage.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one. But those are like, and I'm doing everything like I said. Quit my job in April, so I'm doing all of this stuff off of a pretty tight budget. So to go out and dump $5,000 just in batteries, those are like big steps.
And then you're also learning everything on the go as well. Like, I mean, if you have construction experience, I'm sure building the structure of the greenhouse, that's one thing. But then
Hmm.
to think about and design these systems, that's just a whole other element that you're having to figure out on the
Oh
go,
yeah.
I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's been a blast. I mean, we've done some things with 12-volt solar before on like some different RV projects that we've done. So I've had a basic knowledge on, all right, I need this many solar panels. We're going to tie it together here. We're going to have everything that
Mm.
runs off of 12 volt. So, but then that's another thing that's been pretty crazy. So you have this greenhouse thing that didn't exist before April last year. But then as we're doing it, I'm like, all right, well, I know how to do that from this project, and I know how to do that from this. And it's almost like you've been doing all of this stuff to get to this point. And it's just crazy how, like, all right, well, that's just kind of weird. Like, you
Mm.
have all this other stuff that leads to this. And it's like, how did we get
Just
here?
like kind of serendipitous.
Oh, yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I mean, clearly the PDC has been incredibly impactful for you. And if you were to talk with someone who was on the fence about taking a PDC, what would you have to say to them?
I would say do it. Don't look back. Um, take take the PDC. Not even so much for the content is great. There's a ton of information, but just interacting with the people, hearing a different perspective. Um, because I think that was one of my big things was I necessarily didn't want the gardening aspect of the PDC because that's like one of the big things that me and Michelle talked about. I was like, I want all the mechanical stuff. I want the solar. I want the water harvesting. I want the greenhouse stuff.
Mm.
And she told me, she was like, yeah, that's all there. And it's all a stepping off point once you get through the PDC. But the PDC is the core that gets you thinking in the right direction. It starts you um, to just look at all these different aspects, and just it's just such a great starting point. And
Yeah.
and I mean, you even take away a lot of stuff from the things that you didn't necessarily think you needed. I mean, um, just some of the different stories that like Rob and Dakota and Carmen told they were just great, and you felt where they were coming from. You felt like, this stuff is what really touches them at like a deeper level. So you engage into it more. So now you look at things differently from their perspective, and it was
100%.
just such a great experience.
No, I can echo everything you said, and um, I think it's pretty powerful how. I mean, I went into it wanting all of the gardening stuff. I'm like, yeah, how do I build a food forest? Tell me everything there is to know about plants and how to make them grow better. But then to have you coming in from a totally different, you know, field, and then to gain everything that you wanted to gain and more, it's like you don't need to have a special vested interest in plants or gardening. That's not really what a PDC is. It's like it is that way of looking at things that it provides you, and that seems to be where the value was for you, at least.
Oh yeah. I mean, and to take it another step, like, so we did the greenhouse, but then down from the greenhouse, we built like this terrace swale. So any water that we didn't capture off of the greenhouse came down, and we graded the front of our property to where the water comes across this swale. And then we planted like blueberry bushes all down
Nice.
through the swale. And then my goal is to just kind of chip away at the yard all the way down until we hit the street, because like we're on kind of a higher elevation than the street is.
Cool.
So I'm just going to work my way down through. So this year we did, I think we have six blueberry bushes in there. We have like 4 or 5 different grapevines.
Amazing.
We built a pergola for the grapes to climb up. Um, and then it's like this winter, I want to start growing like our own apple trees, because apple trees will grow really good here.
Mhm.
Um, and I just want to keep expanding off of, like, I kind of think of our greenhouse as like the center, and then
Mhm.
everything else is just going to kind of branch out. from there
Cool.
and just keep getting better and growing.
And you had talked about a goal of getting everybody greenhouses, or at least getting every community a greenhouse. What is your vision with that?
So this stupid COVID thing has just made it so tough, because originally what I wanted to do was I wanted to go into all the different community gardens, go into the urban gardens, and get into all of those different groups and find the people who care about this stuff the most. Because that's the easiest place to start, because I don't have to sell them on the idea. I don't have to get them thinking the way that we all were thinking when we came out of the PDC. They're already there. So if I can take what I can do, and if they need it, then it's perfect. It's just me coming in, providing them a service that they already need. And we can come up with these greenhouses that don't cost an arm and a leg to run every month. Like, you don't have to pump natural gas into these things to keep them warm. They do it themselves. And if we can set it up from the get-go off of solar to run the fans that operate the climate battery, that's just, you're doing it all up front. And then it's just, you just go in and you can garden. So that's where I was kind of thinking we could start. You start with those groups, because then from those groups, that takes you to sort of like a hub marketing aspect that we learned about. So then if from there, I have those different groups around the area that we can feed off of, that are going to draw those people in, and they can say, hey, I want to do this and I want to do it on my property. So then we start going to their property and we start seeing how we can fit one of these greenhouses into their property. And it's so, there's so many hills in this area that you have a lot of areas to where they'd be perfect for passive solar greenhouses, just because you can get up above the trees. Because that's a big thing that we face here, is not every property is going to be a fit for one of these greenhouses. But I think there's enough properties here that it would make a huge impact on what everybody's feeling right now. Like this helplessness about, okay, can I go to the grocery store and get fresh vegetables? Are they going to have any? Because we were kind of lucky going into spring to where people could supplement with their gardens in the spring. But now we're at a point to where you don't have that option anymore. Like the outside gardens are gone. Like the frost and the snow have taken them out. So now what do you do?
I think that aspect of control is really interesting, and it's come up in a few of the interviews that I've done with other alumnists. And it's like, a greenhouse, sorry, there's
mine are upstairs. I got that.
Naomi, I'm in an interview right now. That aspect of control, where a greenhouse, objectively, it's kind of like a shed with a glass roof that just like lets the light in. But what it represents beyond that is that control. And it's like you get the skills from using the space, and it builds community from bringing people in, and it gives you security. And it's like so much more than just the structure. And I think that would really have like some powerful ripple effects in the community if you did get enough of those going, and enough people using them and talking about them and talking about food security, resiliency.
Well, I mean, and too,
like upward spiral.
Like you think about, all right, so like the big building practice here is you have our big home builders. They come in, they take these old farmsteads and they put 400 houses on them. And every single one of those houses, or every single one of those plans, has a clubhouse and has a swimming pool. Why can't they have a greenhouse?
Yeah, it's like you're already investing the money and the materials. Just do something a little bit different.
Yeah. You have a greenhouse there. You have garden space that comes off of those greenhouses. It's an area where people can congregate, but then they can grow something, and it gives back. Like the other thing that kind of drives me nuts and has me on the path that I'm on is we spend our lives paying for these mortgages on these houses, and these houses do nothing but keep us out of the weather. They don't supply power. They don't supply water. We're at the mercy of the grid. So why not spend the money smarter up front when you build a house. Build it to where it collects rainwater. Build
Yeah,
it to where it has solar on it.
honestly.
But then I was kind of thinking from a different approach, like, okay, we have all these houses that aren't built like that now. How can we build something that can do the same thing? So what if later on down the road, this greenhouse is like a thing that you install that comes with solar and it comes with water,
Yeah.
and it has this climate battery system underneath of it that generates heat. You can manipulate it a little bit, and you can incorporate earth tubes into it for cooling in the summer.
Yeah.
So what if eventually this whole thing turns into, I can put this in my yard and it runs my house?
Have
Like
you
how
read or heard of Retrofit Suburbia by David Holmgren?
Holmgren, yeah, that's actually one of the books that Michelle recommended
Yeah.
when we were talking. She was like, even if you don't take the PDC, read this book. And I have it somewhere back there, and I haven't had time to read it yet. But
I mean, I haven't read it. I don't even own it, but I know that that's exactly what you're talking about, is like what that book
mhm,
is about. Is, we have all this infrastructure. It's unrealistic to expect us to, build all new structures for people. We have to take what we have and invest in that, and make those, regenerative, make those
mhm,
sustainable beyond the point of just like being sustainable, but like giving back too.
yeah. So that's kind of my end goal. So if at some point I can combine my current company with, like, I can get my two companies to meet up, that's where I want to be if we are looking down the future.
Yeah.
But I think we're going in the right direction. Like, I just keep throwing the greenhouse thing out there, and I'm starting to get some traction. So I think I have one project lined up for next year,
Good for you.
to go in and build a greenhouse. Um, and I just keep approaching different people. Like, I've
Do it.
started
Yeah.
to I follow a bunch of different, like, building maker podcasts,
Nice.
and I'm starting to reach out to those people to see if we could do like a joint venture to get
Wow.
more, um, just get more people looking at them. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I have a call tomorrow with one of those maker podcasts,
Yes.
and they have 3 million subscribers. So if we could put a passive solar greenhouse on a channel that has 3 million subscribers,
Wow.
how many people could we reach with that? And then
And
we
you were
get
doing
Rob on there, and we get him on his thing, and it would just be perfect. So
man, you were doing all of the right things. It's so inspiring to just hear you talk about all of this.
yeah, it's been so much fun. Like, my wife's probably gonna kill me one day, but like, we just keep going, and she's a good sport about it all, and it's been a blast. And I would be lying to say if it wasn't stress. Like, at the end of the day, you're sitting there and you're like, all right, is this really the direction? Like, and then it's just, there's something in your head saying like, yeah, this is it. Like,
You got to do it.
just deal with it. And if you didn't do it, it would almost be like some little part of you died. Like, I think
Mm.
that's the big thing for me, is like, yeah, I could stay on that other path and we could have a good life, and my kids would have like a really good education, and we would be very secure. But like, something inside of me wouldn't survive that.
And we need more people with that exact same attitude, because you're making a shift towards a lifestyle and a career that is actively, bettering the earth and our human connection with the earth. And if
Absolutely.
we had more people doing that, like, we could slowly start to fix some of the larger scale problems that we see on earth because of what we do as humans.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we said in the beginning, you just keep going the direction that feels right to go in, and you make the right decisions based on ethics more so than money.
Mm.
And it just feels right to go that direction, and doors open up. Like, the phone rings and everything changes. So and so met so and so, and now we're on this whole different path. and you can't try to figure it all out, because it's just not gonna happen.
And I guess probably, you know, one of the exciting things about this too is that it's so new, like especially passive solar greenhouses. Like that's like a very new technology. And so there's so much space for opportunity with it. And it's like just I can see how that'd be so exciting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's exciting. It's scary because you don't know that it's going to work, but like, you know that it's going to work because you've done
Yeah.
all this research behind it. And you see it more and more. Like, I was just watching a different YouTube channel yesterday, to where they go around and they document different houses, more or less. Like, she just goes in and she films all these different unique houses. And there's this guy out in Nebraska that's building past his version of passive solar greenhouses. And he's been doing it. He's like 87 years old, and he's been doing it since he retired. And he has a different take on it. He does his more like I think a conventional geothermal system, to where they do big long runs out on the property because they have so much space.
Sorry, I was muted, but I think I've seen videos of that guy on YouTube.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's just like this old guy, and he's just like, yeah, look what we
check
can.
my oranges. Is it
Yeah.
like the Kristen Dirksen
Yeah.
Happen films?
Yeah,
I love those so much.
Yeah. She does awesome work, and she's another example. Like, this whole mindset of like, just do what you feel passionate about,
Yeah.
and it all just falls into place. And I think that is the big takeaway from the PDC, is that you just see everybody's passions, like, and it comes through, and you can't help but connect to those people, because they're not lying to you. They're speaking from the heart. They're speaking about what matters to them, and that really goes far with people.
Yeah, I mean, it was very wholesome in that way. Like everybody, you know, in a PDC, they just have such genuine intentions, and you know, you all share this common goal of just wanting to make a difference or do something better with your life. And you're maybe not sure what at the time, but you're hoping that this PDC will give it to you. And it's, you know, for a lot of people, it does. I'd say for everybody, it does in one shape or form.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, this PDC changed our entire life completely. And I give it all to the PDC, that it gave me the confidence in myself to do what I knew, gave me the confidence to make the tough decisions, I think. And that is inspiring in itself, despite what the content is, that goes a long way.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I didn't have to ask you any of my questions off the sheet, because you answered them all for me just in what you were already saying. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. It really has been a pleasure to talk to you and hear your story. And you know, I'm really excited to take this and put it up online and to get your profile up on the website. So
yeah, and then Rob has a bunch of B-roll footage from the greenhouse already that you can use. Okay. I think I emailed it to him. I was supposed to do a YouTube, like I was supposed to do this all on my own, and I did a version of it, and I had it all scripted, and I read off a screen, and it was totally fake. And he called me out on it, and he was like, dude, just throw that away and do another one. And I did another one, and it's on my phone, but I think this will be way better.
I mean, I'm probably just throwing this up as like a one cut. Here's Brandon, here's what he's up to. And you know, even this conversation right now is probably going to be in the final posting. So
yeah, that's all awesome.
Good. If I can get some B-roll in here, that'd be fun, but I'm not sure if I have those editing skills just yet.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I am so glad I got to talk to you today, and I hope we'll get to talk some more in the future.
Yes.
And I'm just going to keep throwing things out there and see what happens.
Do it. I'd be very curious to check in with you in, you know, 6 months, a year, 2 years time, and see how things change and how things have evolved.
Yeah. Sounds good.
And until then, I'm going to put this profile up, but if you could send me like a headshot and maybe any pictures of your company logos or anything like that I could put up on the profile, that'd be excellent.
Perfect.
And in the meantime, have an awesome day and just best of luck with everything, man. I'm rooting for you.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Tell everybody I said hi.
I will. Bye, Brandon.